The most interesting part about being a textile designer is being able to create something from the ground up. Figuring out what kind of materials you're going to use, what kind of pattern you're going to design, what kind of color you're going to be using. And you actually take all these different parts and you bring them together to create a fabric. My name is Elizabeth Whelan and I'm a textile designer, and this is my studio in New York City. I think I'm known for creating fabrics that are sort of embrace future-facing materials and functions, whether it's an ergonomic chair or a running jacket or a piece of luggage. The way that I collaborate working with a chair designer or a product designer on a chair is pretty straightforward. We just sit down and discuss what the fabric needs to do. And that covers a lot of different areas. It covers the aesthetics, it covers the function, it covers the performance, rather than just what it's going to look like. The tri-panel mesh back is an important innovation because you couldn't just use any mesh fabric. The mesh textiles had to be lightweight, they had to feel good, they had to not be abrasive. So their performance had to go beyond just what they were doing in the chair, but to how it's being used by the human being. I would say that the breakthrough was to create a fabric that actually had less stretch, but enough flexibility to take the shape that Niels had designed for the back, and at the same time, create enough support for a user to use day in and day out. We actually had to use yarns that had a special amount of elasticin in the yarns. Some yarns we have 2 different levels of elasticin and to create the level of support that we need. So the tri-panel mesh construction, it's a terrific combination of wonderful chair industrial design and then a fabric that works well under those conditions. With Humanscale, every single fabric that we've done is a customized fabric. So in the fabric world or textile world, interior world, a lot of times you work off what's called common warps. So company A has a collection for a new task seating, and company B is going to do a collection, a completely different company. They might be using the same mill and they might be using what they call the same warp. Because of the fabrics that we have been designing for Humanscale need to be different and their function is different, we've had to actually custom all of the constructions at the mills. Humanscale has its own set of durability tests that we've developed over the years. And Humanscale fabrics exceed industry standards by 5 times, probably for several reasons. First, when we started out, we were not really known to the industry, and so we wanted to exceed industry standards to let the industry know that we meant business, that our work really stood the test. In the case of the durability test, which is Weizenbeek, we normally test to at least 100,000 or beyond. And you know, some people might say, well, that's excessive. But if you're sitting on a chair for 6 or 7 hours a day, 5 days a week, or some people, it's now more, 24/7, some of our installations, then those type of durability standards are important. When I started working with Niels Diffriant and Humanscale, I was a really much younger designer than I am now, but I also was a less informed designer. And the wonderful thing about working with Niels was that he helped take the blinders off, and he helped me really evolve as a designer. I started to understand that what I do had a relationship to things that are much larger than just design in itself. I smile when I think about those days because there was a learning curve involved, but also there was such, Niels Diffriant he was so dedicated to what he was creating and his standards and realizing the chair. And Bob King was so committed to seeing it through. And when you have that combination, you can't help but step along and move forward. So I was really lucky.